Hello guys, welcome to another video, and this one I'm going to be providing another update for my Pathfinder gas grenade build. My league starter is day 2, and well, the build has progressed all the way through the campaign now. I've got to the end of the Interludes and I'm currently in maps. I've just started doing maps. I think I've done 3 or 4 maps so far, and everything is progressing along nicely. Act 4 was actually incredible. Really impressed with the quality level of Act 4. It's kind of much better than the other acts. I know that's a bit weird to say. I think Act 1 is actually really good, but Act 4 is really good. Really impressed with it. I love the traveling to the different islands. The difference between the islands is like really noticeable. It's not like you're just playing the same thing over and over again. There's a big difference between each island and what's actually on it, and the different bosses and things like that. You know, if Act 5 and Act 6 are going to be anything like that, the campaign, once it's finished, is going to be amazing. And then for the Interludes, you know, grinding gear games are the masters of reusing assets, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean in the best possible way. They are really good at reusing assets in a very good way, and that's exactly what they've done for the Interludes. It's so much better than replaying the campaign. There's a lot of reused bosses there, and reskinned bosses, and even reused zones with different lighting and different monsters and things like that. And it's all been done very well, considering that this is just kind of temporary content for the campaign. In terms of like story progression, I don't want to spoil anything in this video, so no story spoilers, but I'm not sure exactly how they're going to go with the kind of story progression, because the Interludes kind of felt like they were quite meaningful to the story progression. You'll know if you actually get there, but not sure what's going to happen if they take that out of the game, but we'll have to wait and see, I guess, when Act 5 comes around, and Act 6 as well. But yeah, so I'm in maps at this point, and by now I've fully transitioned into gas grenade. I have dropped high velocity rounds from the build, and that's because I'm now in a full elemental setup. High velocity rounds is very good while you're kind of a bit hybrid. You know, you still got a bit of phys scaling, bit of elemental scaling there, but high velocity rounds is mostly based on physical damage because it benefits from broken armor, and then it also deals a percentage of the damage again on subsequent hits, but that's only based on the physical damage of the previous hits. So we don't really have very much phys scaling anymore in the build. It's mostly elemental. So dropped high velocity rounds, and it's pure gas grenade from here on out. I think I did that around the middle of Interlude 1, something like that. I was able to get like a good crossbow upgrade with full elemental damage, and at that point I actually switched over. And yeah, so there is quite a few changes to the build in terms of pathing on the tree and gems and things like that. I've already updated the mobilitics guide with all that stuff, but I'm going to go through it right now in this video. So let's begin with my character gear. And in terms of gear, there's not really that much going on here. The biggest upgrade that we had was the crossbow, and I pretty much spent all of my gold gambling to get this. I think I had like 20,000 or 15,000 gold left from maybe 150,000 after I gambled everything, and I managed to hit a large lightning damage roll on one of the last gambles, and then I managed to exalt the cold damage, and the fire damage came from one of the bones from the Abyss League mechanic. So that's the crossbow I'm using at the moment. It's just a bunch of flat elemental, along with a couple of elemental damage runes there. That's the biggest upgrade that I've had. I think at the time when I equipped it, this was literally double damage for my poison, so it was a huge upgrade. And for the other gear, it's all pretty basic life and resistance stuff. These 2 pieces are quite decent for where I'm at right now, but other things are not that great. Like, this is still quite low life here. This one doesn't have any life at all. It's got a bit of flat damage though, some resistances. I think my resistances are not actually capped at the moment. I'm currently, yeah, my fire's capped, lightning and cold not capped. I will actually do some trading soon to get some better gear. For now, I've only traded for unique items. I can actually show that here. So I traded for the Plague Finger very early on in progression, obviously. I showed that in yesterday's video. But I've also done some trading for the weapon swap. Now that I've got all of the weapon swap passives, I've actually set that up on the passive tree, and I've set it up in terms of the items here. So we've got the Curse Carver wand for the plus gem levels for despair, and then also the Arvil's wheel there for the increased skill effect duration. That just means that whenever you do cast your curse and get it up on a boss or something like that, you don't then need to cast it again very soon afterwards. It's just very long duration, very effective, and that's pretty much it. So yeah, in terms of gear, that's it. Very basic stuff, other than the, you know, the crossbow weapon upgrade there, which was quite big. Then let's take a look at the passive tree. So as I said, I've set up the weapon swap now, and you can actually see that here. This is the weapon swap stuff here. When I switch, you can see that. So all of this stuff here. And then up here, we've got the other weapon swap setup, which is our secondary, our offhand setup for the curse. So this is a bunch of just curse effect, area effect, and curse duration on all of these wheels here. I think this is a new wheel here, actually. This is just some curse magnitudes. I haven't taken this notable here because I don't think this will work for gas grenade, because I think that even though gas grenade has been placed down and it's technically like constantly ticking and applying poisons, I think that is tied to your first weapon set, so I don't think you'll get that increased duration of ailments with gas cloud if you've got your second weapon set out. But yeah, this is the setup we've got going on now. One of the big changes that I've done from yesterday's update and from the original planned build is that we're no longer pathing up here and down here to grab this poison wheel. We're actually going across here now and going this way. And that means that I've decided to completely drop Spectral Ward. Initially, my plan was to go for Spectral Ward, go for a pure evasion body armor, and then obviously we'll be taking Subterfuge Mask with a pure energy shield helmet. But I think I'm just going to go and completely forgo going for Spectral Ward now, and then go for a hybrid evasion energy shield body armor, and I'll still be going for the helmet. I'll still be grabbing this right here. So it's going to be a little bit less defensive scaling because we're missing, these 3 nodes here for percent ES and evasion. But I'll probably make it up for evasion with some of these nodes over here. There are some evasion scaling nodes down here. But this is the big change there that's been made. So we're going this way instead. I have updated the Mobilytics build guide to show that off. But yeah, now we've got all of the poison stuff. We've got the +1 poisons and all of this wheel here. We've got all of this extra magnitude here and over here as well. And we've also got this right here for faster ailment damage. And yeah, overall, looking pretty good. And let's quickly go over the gems as well. Here's the main gas grenade setup here. Obviously, like I said, I've switched off of high velocity rounds, which means we've dropped corrosion at this point. So it's gas grenade with elemental armament level 2. That's 25% more elemental damage there. And then elemental focus for 25% more elemental damage again. Now, obviously, these 2 supports are only scaling elemental damage. So that's why you really want to focus on elemental scaling on your weapon, because this is one of the big things. The difference between this setup here, using Plague Finger to inflict poisons with elemental damage, compared to like a pure fizz setup, is that there aren't that many good gems with the pure fizz setup to scale damage. And these 2 gems really come in handy if you do go for the Plague Finger setup. So we're using those 2, and then it's Deadly Poison level 2. This is a big buff for the build this patch, because this gem only existed in the first version in the last patch, which I believe works out at about 31% more damage. Now this is about a 40% more damage multiplier, so that's really good. And then we also have Persistent Ground 3. I talked about this yesterday. This support gem is absolutely incredible for gas grenade. This is probably the biggest buff for gas grenade in this patch. This one support gem right here, you're never going to replace this. This is always going to be there no matter whether you're bossing or whether you're mapping. This is just incredibly strong. And once we actually get the last gem, I think it's going to be the area effect scaling gem for ground effects when we're mapping, and then we'll probably switch into execute for bossing. Then there's Withering Presence, which nothing much has changed here. Prolonged duration for a bit more, stacking up withers there, and then clarity. Then there's the Despair setup. Make sure that this gem here is linked to your second weapon set. Right, so you don't want it linked to your first weapon set. You want it to benefit from all of those curse nodes. This one is linked to Heightened Curse, along with Prolonged Duration and Efficiency, because the mana cost is huge on this one. So 40% less cost really does make it a lot better to deal with. And then we have Wind Dancer, which is currently turned off because we're in our weapon swap. And there you go. So Wind Dancer with Blind 2, which is an upgraded version of the Blind gem. It blinds on hit, and then it also has a 20% increased effect of the blind. So once monsters are actually blinded, it's going to make their accuracy lower, and so our evasion rating is more effective as a result. There's also magnified area there for a large increased area effect. So when we actually do get hit and one of these Wind Dancer stacks drops down, we'll do like a big sort of area attack around us, and all of the monsters that are in that area will all get blinded, and they'll all get maimed as well because of this maim support. So this is like a defensive setup. It's really nice just for, just for general mapping, because you are going to be, if you look at the gameplay for this build, you are going to be doing a lot of like dodge rolling through packs, because a lot of the damage happens after you've already moved past the pack, because they're kind of straggling, and then, they run through the clouds and they just die to all of the poison proliferation. Then we have Ghost Dance into the build, so these two are obviously new from yesterday, and Ghost Dance just has compressed duration, which means it has less skill effect duration, so the stacks get reapplied faster after it actually drops off. Ghost Dance is just, providing us with an energy shield recovery method, as energy shield recovery was kind of gutted quite a bit in this patch. There's no more, life flask conversion to energy shield and things like that. So this is still really good, along with Wind Dancer, boosting up our evasion, and then we get recovery based on our evasion to our energy shield. And lastly, I have Mortar Cannon here. This is not something that I've put into the guide just yet, because I'm not sure how exactly this is going to work. I've literally only just socketed this in, so I can't speak on its effectiveness. But initially, I had planned to just use any totem, really, because it wasn't going to be for damage. It was going to be a full support setup for the totem. And my idea there was just to put Blind in there and put Font of Rage and, Font of Mana or something like that, so we get a little bit of Rage regen and good mana recovery and things like that while standing near the totem. But I'm going to test out Mortar Cannon along with Voltaic Grenade and, some scaling for shock there, more chance to shock, and lightning attunement, so it's mostly lightning damage. And of course, Voltaic Grenade has built-in electrocution build-up, so in theory this will help to build towards shock and electrocution, but again, I can't really speak on how effective this is because I haven't really tested it just yet. So that is the setup as of right now. I'm currently level 68, and for the planned progress for the build, in terms of the tree, it's mostly going to be defensive nodes from here on out. We have almost all of the damage nodes at this point. We're going to grab this damage node here, and then it's mostly going to be defensive nodes. We're going to be grabbing this wheel right here for all the evasion and energy shield scaling. We're going to grab this one here, and then we're going to go around here through this skill speed and mana regen, grab the attack and cast speed here, all the way through this scaling for energy shield and evasion, and down here for the movement speed and mana regen and stuff like that. And most of the progress for the build in terms of damage from this point onwards will come from gear upgrades. Right, there's not really much left on the tree for us to get in terms of damage. There is a few things, and obviously we have our Anoint and things like that from our amulet, but it's mostly going to be damage upgrades coming from gear at this point. Gear is a huge part of this build, as it is with most builds in PoE 2. A lot of things are kind of gear locked, and obviously we get huge amounts of damage from our rings, like flat damage, flat elemental, and then the weapon also needs a lot of flat damage on it as well. And as I talked about in the first video and in the Mobalytics guide, there are some endgame upgrades you can get there which are quite expensive but very, very beneficial. But that is pretty much it. That's the day 2 update for the build. Everything going smoothly, everything going according to plan. And yeah, I hope you guys are having a good time if you are playing this build. I hope you're having a good time if you're playing any build in Path of Exile 2. And yeah, let me know how you guys are getting on. Thanks very much for watching this video. And as always, stay tuned and stay safe.